Welcome back to the Whiteout Report podcast here on a Wednesday night, previewing Penn State and Iowa this Saturday night at Kinnick Stadium here at Proline TV. As always, I am Marty Leap, joined by Dylan Callahan Crawley as we attempt to preview Saturday's game. I mean, obviously, it's a bit of a challenge because you don't know with Penn State. First game after firing James Franklin, you don't know how this team's going to react, how they're going to respond. You don't know if there's going to be any personnel changes with Terry Smith now as head coach. Oh, yeah, it's also the first game after Drew Aller suffered a season-ending injury and the first career start for Ethan Grunkemeyer. So, it's going to be very interesting, to say the least, on Saturday night.
Yeah, we obviously did Sunday's show. We've gotten the shock out of our – and shock's not the right word. Everybody who watched Saturday's game knew what was coming. But, yeah, you kind of forgot until, you start seeing the practice tweets tonight that there's a game again this weekend. They have to go out to Iowa City on Friday and play a game on Saturday. And guess what? James Franklin's not going to be on the sideline. Guess what? Drew Aller's not going to be – not even under center. He's not even going to be on the sidelines. He has left State College to go see a doctor. It's wow. Who would have guessed? Just 20 days on Saturday, 21 days ahead before that, they were competing against Oregon for maybe being the number one team in the country. And now everything is, for this season, gone. And Penn State fans are now looking more forward to who's going to be the next head coach. Well, some people out there are, compared to the last 6 games, it's very interesting. I've been asking people how do you go as a fan? How do you go into the next 6 games and treating this? Because all the real, accomplishments that they wanted for this season are off the table at this point. If they run the table, great, that would be amazing, but it's very unlikely to happen. And you don't have your starting quarterback now. You have an interim head coach. It's just, as a fan, how do you go into these next 6 games? It's very interesting to me. Do you go in it with no expectations and just enjoy what the football is going to be and just enjoy football in general? Or I think for some fans, the general idea of this doesn't matter is actually going to be relieving. Because a lot of Penn State fans for the last, 4 or 5 years, every week kind of had to hold on to their butts, hoping that Penn State either held on against an inferior opponent or would try to come up with a big win.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things, like you said, is as a fan, what do you look forward to here? Because, in most years, this would suck. Be like, hey, let's see what Grunk can do, glimpse into the future, get him ready to be the guy next year. But in today's world with the transfer portal and not knowing who the head coach is, who knows how many of these players are even on this roster next year, right? So I think that throws another wrench into it as well. Like you said, it's a much different situation than Penn State. They haven't been in a situation like this since late in the 2021 season, right? Because, in 2021, what was it? 5-0 start. You go to Iowa City, ironically enough, and it looks like you're going to boat race Iowa. And then Sean Clifford gets hurt and the whole season falls apart, but they still started 5-0. So that Iowa game was early to mid-October. They had a bye week after it. It wasn't until that 9 overtime loss against Illinois, which was towards the end of October, that the season was effectively over. So it's definitely a situation, this program, this fan base has not been in a long time, which, is a testament to James Franklin and his staff for what they had built here before it all came crashing down. But yeah, that's to me, I think what's the intriguing thing is, because again, I think in most years you'd look at this, hey, we're 3-3, this is a lost season, but let's see what Ethan Grunkemeyer can do. Let's see what some of these young receivers can do. Let's continue to watch the development of a Chaz Coleman, of an Amari Campbell.
Yeah.
Season strong, bowl practice, win the bowl game, momentum going into the offseason. But again, you don't know how many of these players are even going to be at Penn State next year with the transfer portal. Their coach is going to be gone. When the new coach comes in, who knows who's retained on this coaching staff? So yeah, this is just it's uncharted territory for Penn State, and in a lot of ways, Penn State fans, we kind of touched on this a little bit. You know, Greg and I did in the postgame show Saturday. You and I did Sunday in our emergency pod when James Franklin was fired. Mm-hmm. It's uncharted territory anyway, because Penn State fans aren't used to this, right? Joe Paterno was here forever. You had the 2-year run with Bill O'Brien, and then 12 years of James Franklin. You know, I made the comparison. It's similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where it's just there's almost never coaching changes. There's almost never major upheaval. You very rarely have seasons like this, and here we are. So I'm interested to see what fans are looking for the rest of the way. I'm also very interested to see how this team responds, especially after some of the comments from some of the captains and their media availability this week. You know, they feel it seems like a large sense of guilt and responsibility for what happened and for James Franklin being fired. So I'm curious how they respond to that, because, I mean, you'd like to think they'd come out with a fire lit under them on Saturday night and play some angry, pissed-off football that we haven't seen all year. But who knows if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and, I mean, you bring up, you know, this being really the first coaching search at Penn State in a really long time, even beyond just James Franklin's first before the Bill O'Brien. You look at it, in the last 100 years, since 1926, Penn State has had 6 head coaches, full-time head coaches. Hugo Bezdek, Bob Higgins, Joe Bannock, Rip Engel, Joe Paterno, Bill O'Brien, James Franklin. 6 head coaches in 100 years of football. Yes, a large group of that was the 46 years of Joe Paul. But, I mean, for almost every living Penn State fan, 75% of Penn State fans out there, they've known 3 head coaches their entire life. It's insane to think. And out of those 3 true full-time head coaches, 2 made up, you know, 90% of those years. It is insane to think about. But yeah, you talk about the vibes of the last few. We talked about the vibes of the last few weeks going into this game, going into UCLA Northwestern. We saw what happened. The vibes this week are interesting for what you bring up, and the fact that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, the players are feeling the burden of what has happened. And I was thinking about this after we got off on Sunday. I thought about this Monday and Tuesday too. I'm very intrigued to see how these players handle this, because whether it's you want to debate if their fault or not, which obviously it's not 100% their fault. At the end of the day, a coach is relying on his players to execute, but your coach has to put you in the position to, you know, execute at a high level. But you know, these are 18 and 24-year-old kids. How are they going to take the idea that their head coach is fired, and no matter what you tell them, they're going to think it's on them that he is no longer the head coach at Penn State, because they were the players on the field for the last 3 games. They lost all 3. And now suddenly the man that, you know, brought them to Penn State, went into their homes, recruited them to be Penn State, have been a father figure for them at Penn State, is now gone. And he's not walking back through that last building door. And it sounds like, you know, I'm making it sound like he died. Obviously, that's not the case. But as a young man, as a young teen, you know, an older teenager into your early 20s, like how do you process that, right? Especially at a school like Penn State, because you're not just processing that, you're processing the last 3 weeks. You have seen your season get completely ruined. And outside of pride, there isn't much left to play for.
Yeah, there really isn't. I mean,
honestly, what Terry Smith should do this week before they head down to Iowa City is call up some members of that 2012 team and have them give us a speech before they leave to Iowa City, because that team didn't have much else to play for besides pride either. They had a much better season than they ever should have had in 2012.
After starting 0-2.
Especially after starting 0-2. So Terry Smith should probably call. I mean, Michael Marty is already around the program.
Deion Barnes was on that team. The defensive line coach was on that team.
Yeah, get Michael Zordich up there to talk to him. I mean, that's the best thing you could do. I mean, at this point, they have to play for pride, and they have to, play for the logo on the front, right?
Yeah. And, I think some of this, too, goes back to what Terry Smith said in his press conference on Monday. We're like just reminding these guys, hey, this is still Penn State, right? This is still one of the biggest brands in college football. And not even just that, in today's college football with the transfer portal, with whatever it may be, it's for a lot of these guys, it's almost like a contract year in the NFL now, right? Because whether you're still at Penn State with whoever the coach is next year, or you're looking to transfer somewhere, or, if James Franklin gets hired at another place, you want to follow him. You want to have the film that's going to back that up. You want to have the film that's going to back up getting you an NIL deal somewhere. If you're one of these guys in your last year before you're going to go pro, you want to have that film for the NFL. So, I think that's something also that's worth playing for if you're these guys. And you mentioned that 2012 team and them talking to these guys. One thing I saw today that Terry Smith mentioned after practice was that Tom Bradley called him. Bradley, much different situation, obviously, when Bradley took over as the interim coach in 2011 after Joe Paterno was fired. And he just had a talk with Terry about how he talked to that team, how they handled things, the outlook they had. Now, again, that was much different because by the time Tom Bradley took over, if I remember correctly, there was only 3 or 4 games left in the regular season.
4 games. 3.
I can remember there were 7 or 8 when it happened.
Well, 3 regular season games.
And in that bowl game, that was
against Houston. They faced 3 ranked teams in the last 4 games, by the way.
In that bowl game where everybody was completely checked out. And ironically enough, the last time Penn State won in Columbus was with interim coach Tom Bradley in 2011. But
also against an interim coach that year, who is also going to get fired this year.
Fired, yes. So, there's a lot.
Luke Fickell, for those who don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Dylan, for pointing that out. But yeah, there's it's hard for it's hard for me. That was 14 years ago. Holy hell. Anyway, that still feels like that was yesterday to me. But there's still a lot for these guys to play for, even if it's just like you said, even pride for your own personal gain. Hey, you feel like you let James Franklin down. You know how you can rally around him, whatever this point, come out and prove to the best of your ability that everything he said all offseason about how good this team was still somewhat correct, right? Come out, play good football. There's no talent-wise, they're more talented than Iowa, right? I understand Penn State's 3-point underdog going into this game. I get all the reasons why, especially being a night game at Kinnick. But you're the more talented football team. Even with Ethan Grunkemeyer, I still think Ethan Grunkemeyer is the most talented quarterback in this game. Go out and prove it, And some of the stats here, they're 0-3 as a road underdog since 2022. 1-10 as road underdogs of 15 or less. This year, Penn State is 0-5 against the spread. Iowa 4-0-1. So, come out and even if you want to just prove those trends wrong, right? Buck those trends, right? It gives you something to play for if you're Penn State. There's still a lot of meat on the bone for this season. You're not going to reach your goals, but in addition to just the prior you mentioned, you can come out and you can help spoil what should be a good night for Iowa, right? It's a night game, Kinnick Stadium. They're expecting to get to 5-2. Moving forward, Ohio State and Indiana, even Nebraska, who's going to probably linger around playoff talk because of their schedule. You can play spoiler for some of these teams, right? Those are the kind of things that you cling to here moving forward. And that's what, if you're Penn State, you want to come out Saturday night and play hard for those reasons. And nothing else, if you don't come out and play hard, Iowa is a team that will bully you around in this game. I don't know if it gets ugly score-wise because I don't think Iowa's capable of really blowing anybody out because of the style they play.
Last week was pretty ugly.
Yeah, but I think that Wisconsin team there's checked out, and then there's whatever Wisconsin is right now.
We'll see if Penn State's checked out in this game.
Yeah, we'll see. That's fair. That's very fair. But yeah, this is a game you can win, and if not, the thing is too with the style Iowa plays. If you come out and you're checked out, it's not just going to be a long miserable night because you're going to lose. It's going to be a long miserable night because you're going to beat the hell up in the trenches, and there's nothing more just mentally demoralizing in football than physically getting pushed around. So you just need to come out and not let that happen.
And we'll see. We'll see because on Monday in Terry Smith's first press conference as interim head coach, he said that going forward, effort's not going to be a question about this team, which, it tells us our eyes were not deceiving us. Correct. He believes in the last 2 weeks, a big issue with Penn State has been their effort level on the field. And he said that is not going to be a question going forward. I thought it was very, it was a very interesting press conference for how open he was about what issues have been facing this team the last few weeks. Not many, because at the end of the day, James Franklin was the head coach, but if there's a lack of effort, that's just not a James Franklin issue. That's the entire coaching staff is now, has been getting the most out of their players. So, I mean, that was big for him, I think, to admit that Penn State has had this issue. And he was open about several other key aspects. But
real quick with that, I did think too. I know I pointed this out to you in a few group chats we're in. I thought there was more than one time on Monday Terry kind of stopped himself because he realized he was starting to travel down the road to saying things you don't need to say in a press conference and maybe being a little too transparent. But I appreciated that. Right.
And transparent was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
We've heard for a long time how he wasn't just James Franklin's right-hand man, but a lot of times, he wasn't afraid to tell James some of the uncomfortable truths that he needed to hear. And again, I think we saw that in full display on Monday. I'm sure you picked up on this. He not so subtly mentioned that the reason A.J. Harris didn't play after giving up that touchdown on Saturday was he was just out now benched, right? That's something that I think we're going to see more of moving forward when guys are not.
But that's something we never saw of James Franklin's team was accountability for and we talked about that too. For stupid plays, for stupid penalties, there's never accountability. I'm not expecting anytime somebody commits a stupid penalty, they're going to be out of the game. But I expect under Terry Smith, if you're not producing, he's going to give somebody else a chance to go out on the field and do that. And now that yes, Penn State wants to run the table. Penn State wants to win. If they run the table, they would still get a very, very good bowl game, as good as you can get without making the playoffs these days. And but yeah, I mean, I think he at this point, and with the roster you have, obviously you're going to want to be smart with some kids. Like you don't want to go out and just burn a true freshman's red shirt just because your season's over.
Yes.
Maybe that's you sit down with each kid and be like, hey, how do you want to go about the rest of the season? Do you want to preserve that red shirt? That's probably the right way to handle it, right? You see,
100%. Especially in today's world where you want to avoid burning any bridges here, because I do think of the coaches on the staff, Terry Smith and Jim Knowles are probably the two with the highest chance of being retained by whoever the new.
And I think that's why Terry was pretty transparent on Monday.
I do
is because he knows Terry obviously loves James. He is feeling the burden of James no longer being at Penn State. You can also tell he's very much taken this with a lot of pride as well. But yes. I think Terry wants to stay at Penn State with the next head coach.
I do too. He has turned down head coaching jobs before to remain the cornerbacks coach.
The next coach would be insane, no matter who it is, to not retain Terry Smith on the coaching staff. So I think from Terry's standpoint is that, he's also auditioned for the head coaching job technically here, but he's also trying to show the next head coach, what he's capable of. And because let's be honest, that head coach is going. Whoever the next head coach is, Pat Kraft is going to be like, hey, we got 2 coaches on this staff, and Terry Smith and Jim Knowles, that we think you really should consider on keeping. And if I'm guessing out of the 2, if it was one or the other, he would say Terry Smith, even considering the money. Because I think Terry Smith is vastly important to the future success of Penn State football. I'm excited to see how Terry Smith has his team playing on Saturday compared to the last few weeks. And it'll be very interesting. If they win this game, I do think there's a serious chance they finish the season out strongly. I don't know if they beat Ohio State or Indiana. Probably not. But can they go 7-5 if they win this game? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But if they lose this game, I do think losing out is a also serious possibility, if that makes sense.
I do too. I agree completely. I think you win this game, there's a shot you get to 7-5. I think you win this game, you're still going to get to a bowl for sure. Yeah. Because I think you have enough in the tank then to still beat Michigan State and Rutgers. They can still very much beat Nebraska, but Nebraska may have a lot more to play for in that game. But I'm with you. If they lose on Saturday, I don't think going 0-9 in the Big Ten is out of the realm of possibility.
And to go back to my original point, quickly, my original point is at 3-3 now, nothing besides pride to play for. You have that ability to play younger guys. And guess what? If they F up a play and you lose the game because of it, it's not going to – it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't hurt you. If anything, it's beneficial for the long-term health of the program because if those young guys do stick around, they're going to get invaluable game experience this year that will help them next year and beyond if they're still playing.
And let's be honest about this. Penn State's schedule is – and I forgot about this until recently, but Penn State's schedule next season is a advantageous schedule for them.
It is.
If they get the right coach and they have a roster that is, if they're able to form a roster of whoever remains and then the transfer portal, it is a schedule that if they form a good enough or build a good enough team over the offseason, they could be competing once again for a Big Ten title or a college football playoff appearance. And I think that is going to be really beneficial to them in this search when they go swinging for these bigger names. Mm-hmm. One thing we've heard, I know a lot of people think, this is a Matt Rule's job to lose, and we can argue about that over the next 7, 8, 9 weeks. This job isn't being filled anytime soon. But the one thing we've also heard is that Pat Kraft is going to go out and swing at big names here. If there's going to be something that could entice a big name, it's the fact that this Penn State roster, as it's currently built for next year, is still good. You infuse it with some transfer portal talent, and you could be right there competing as soon as next year. I mean, this is not a long-term rebuild. Maybe you're not right back in it next season, but this is a team that if a coach comes in, builds a roster the correct way, in a smart way, they're competing in, if not year 1, in year 2. Year 2, the schedule's a little harder. Right now, that includes an Indiana game. But, I mean, I don't know if Curt Cignetti is going to be at Indiana in 12 months, let alone 24 months. And I'm not saying he's going to end up at Penn State, but if he keeps coaching this well, somebody's going to take him off Indiana's hands sooner or later.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything you said there is accurate. That's a big reason why I think, getting a jump start on the coaching cycle was so important for Penn State when they knew they were at the end with James Franklin. Because, again, like you said, there's no reason for this to be a long-term rebuild. You look at that schedule next year, there's no reason that you can't get the right coach in here, construct this thing, win 10 games, be back in the playoffs. So that's all very true. Before we start to dive a little bit more specifically into Saturday, though, as always, those of you here with us, whether you're watching us live, watching us, replayed sometime between Wednesday night and Saturday night kickoff. We appreciate it. Make sure you join us again Saturday night post game. As always, give us those super chats, give us those super likes. Help keep us free here on YouTube for everybody to enjoy. But yeah, we started to look at the Saturday, and when Penn State and Iowa play, you tend to expect ugly, disgusting games. I'm old enough to remember the 6-4 game with a lot more clarity than I would like to. And you look at these offenses; they both have struggled immensely. Penn State, they're averaging 35.7 points per game, but you take out the non-con, and that number plummets, especially against, Oregon and Northwestern, the two best defenses they faced. Iowa, they continue to do Iowa things. They can't move the ball. They can't score. They're 58th nationally in scoring, but that number is really inflated by hanging 47 on UMass and then 37 on a just beyond quit Wisconsin team. One thing that'll intrigue me Saturday night is you look at the passing attack from Iowa, if that's what you want to call it. For as bad as Penn State's receivers have been, Penn State has 4 guys on their roster with more yards receiving than Iowa's leading receiver. So I think it's going to be a big test of this rushing defense that has definitely struggled at times this year. They come out Saturday. Iowa's going to look to run the ball. They're Iowa. That's what they do. Kamari Moulton averaging 5 yards a carry. Xavier Williams averaging 7 yards a carry. They're going to look to run the ball at you. It's going to be a big test for this defense, especially without Tony Rojas, a linebacker. Now, I will say this is a much better matchup for Dom DeLuca than the last two have been, especially UCLA. So I think that works in Penn State's favor. I'm also going to be curious to see, not so much defensively, more so Penn State's offense. We'll get to when we talk about Penn State's offense. If things change, if Kotelnicki maybe has the ability to be a little more freewheeling on offense, but even Jim Knowles defensively, I don't think anything's going to change there. But I'll be curious to see how that looks. It's going to be a big test for this rush defense that has struggled at times this year.
Yeah, I can't say it better myself. And this is where Penn State's season's going to lie going forward, is in the trenches. Through 6 games, we have a special guest. Through 6 games, Penn State's effort in the trenches has not been good enough. They got bullied by both Northwestern and UCLA, which should never happen. If Penn State can't play well in the trenches this week, they're going to have a good shot at winning this game, assuming that Ethan Grunkemeyer is capable of throwing a ball downfield, which is more than Taquan Roberson could do in 2021.
Taquan Roberson couldn't get a snap off in 2021.
Yeah, that was bad. And that's a whole different conversation for another. Talking about young players and not talking about playing young players versus not playing young players. And you can argue that one of James Franklin's biggest flaws was not giving young talent enough experience when you expected them to be a contributor the following season. Especially a backup quarterback. Just never got backup quarterbacks in the game when he should have. Nonetheless, it's going to come down to the trenches. I mean, if they can play better in the trenches, we play to where their capabilities are. I think they have a great chance of winning this game. This is still a much more talented team on both sides of the ball than Iowa. This is just going to come down to who wants it more. And if you're Iowa, I think you're going to – the way that team is built under Kirk Ferentz, their attitude, everything, they're going to come in this game smelling blood in the water, and they're just going to – I wouldn't be surprised if this is a lot like Michigan 2023, where they just run the ball and see how long it takes for Penn State to stop them, if they can stop them. And Iowa will have no problem winning the game in that fashion.
Yeah, and I think that's where Penn State's offense being much better on Saturday night is going to be important as well, because even if the defense starts strong and they're holding up and the offense just continuously going 3 and out, not staying on the field, that sort of thing, that's where you see defenses get worn down. So that's where it's going to be important for the offense to avoid that. I mean, again, it's going to be a challenge, right? Iowa's allowing give me a second, I just had it in front of me, I believe 8 points per game. 13 points per game, excuse me, which ranks 8th in the country. That's where it's going to be 8 from. They held a very, very good Indiana team to 20 points. But honestly, they probably should have beaten Indiana. If in that Indiana game, if Mark Gronowski doesn't get hurt, I think Iowa probably beats Indiana, or if their kicker doesn't shank a field goal. That was a game the Hawkeyes probably should have won. And you know what you're going to get, right? It's Phil Parker. You're going to get that deep 2 cover shell. He's not going to let anything behind you. He's going to force you to dink and dunk and work your way down the field. You have faced Phil Parker a million times. Again, you know exactly what you're going to face. It's just going to be up to you offensively to execute. And then all starts with playing better in the trenches. All starts up front. This offensive line, all offseason, we heard how they might have been the best offensive line in college football.
They wanted to win a Joe Moore award.
Yeah, James Franklin came out and said he thought they were going to win the Joe Moore award, and they couldn't have been any further from that through 6 games. So it's up to the offensive line to, for a lack of a better way of putting it, get their life together, get their act together, and come out and perform. Like I said, hopefully they come out, they're angry, they're pissed off, and they show it. And if they do, I think they're capable of winning this game.
The insane thing is, this is an offensive line that at the end of last year was playing at an extremely high level, and almost everybody returned.
And they were playing at an extremely high level without their best linemen. Yeah. Anthony Donka has the highest ceiling of anyone on this offensive line, and he missed the postseason last year. And from that Oregon game and the Big Ten championship game on, the offensive line was dominant. They ran for almost 300 yards against Oregon. They ran all over SMU and Boise. They were physically dominating Notre Dame for a majority of the Orange Bowl. Yeah. Like, against the 2 best front sevens they faced all year other than Ohio State, Notre Dame and Oregon, the offensive line pushed them around. And like you said, it's essentially the same guys. Yeah, you lost Sal Wormley, but you got Anthony Donka back from injury. And, all these other guys should have been another year of experience, another year developed, another year better, and it just hasn't happened. I know we've talked about it before. Frank Leonard, who was an offensive line assistant helping out with Phil Troutwine,
he seems like
retirement. How maybe that hurt more than people thought, but it's time for this offensive line to come out and do something on Saturday night.
Phil Troutwine has yet to have a good offensive line at Penn State without Phil Leonard.
And if you look at his track record, I hate to say this because I've been extremely high on Trout till coming into this year. His best offensive lines have either been with him or when he was at Boston College with Steve Adazio. So
another great offensive line coach.
Guru. Steve Adazio may suck as a head coach, but there's no denying his ability to coach and develop an offensive line.
Yeah, it's quite concerning when you look at it.
I think even more so than James, because James, if he wants to land on his feet and be head coach in a Power 4 next year, he's going to be easily. The second he wants to become a head coach again, he'll get hired. I'm not sure any coach's star on the staff has faded more since the start of the season than Phil Troutwine.
Especially
he turned down the Cincinnati Bengals in the offseason. He turned down Alabama the offseason before that, and now here we are.
There was rumors that he interviewed with Ohio State last offseason. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that, or I don't know, it was whenever Ohio State may have had an opening, whatever it may be. But
it was last year when they brought in Tyler Bowen. Because he turned down Alabama, and that was 2 cycles ago. In this previous cycle, this last offseason, he turned down the Cincinnati Bengals. He had a chance to go coach in the NFL, but no.
But like I'm just out on Phil Troutwine as a coach because outside Phil Leonard was at Penn State for 2-3 years.
I think 3 years. I think he came in ahead of the 2022 season when the offensive line just again was excellent, and in the Rose Bowl, a Utah team that what's Utah known for being big, mean, nasty, and physical, pushed them around.
And it's going to be interesting. We won't find out at Penn State. But if he ends up back in college, I'll be interested to see how Troutwine's recruiting goes from here on out. Because was he the one who was identifying the great talent, or was that Phil Leonard?
Yeah, that's
the whole thing about him is in question now. That's the thing.
It is. It's hard to believe this is where we're at right now. It really is.
Well, you were talking about the Orange Bowl, and it just dawned on me that I was out there covering the Orange Bowl for Happy Valley Insider, and for 90% of that game, it seemed like Penn State was going to go to the national championship game, which would have been insane to.
Even after James Greathouse has that touchdown when Cam Miller fell down to tie it, it still felt like it, right? Because when they got the ball back before regulation ended, you thought, hey, if they don't march down and kick a field goal here, with how much they've dominated in the trenches, they're built to win this thing in a college overtime setting. And it's just, it really never felt like they were going to lose until, even after the Drew Allen interception, to get off the defense had a, 3rd and 8 where Notre Dame was not in field goal range yet and just could not get that last stop. It's just, it never, like you said, for the majority of that game, it felt like they're going to be playing for a national championship. They're one play away from it.
Yeah.
And now here we are breaking down them going into Kinnick Stadium at 3-3, just trying to win a conference game with an interim head coach. And wondering who the hell the coach is going to be in 2020.
Now, that being said, without getting into it on here, because I don't want to spread false information if it is false, but at the same time, there has been, rumors and hearsay that have popped up in the recent days about perhaps fractures that were beginning to show within the James Franklin and Penn State relationship over the last few months of his tenure with the program. So, I mean, as we've learned more in the recent days, I'm comfortable in saying that if Penn State did anything short of getting back to a semifinal this year, I think James Franklin would not be the coach in 2026 no matter what.
Yeah, even if it would have been a mutual split, I'm with you. I think that relationship between him and Pat Kraft, it seems like, had absolutely eroded.
Without getting too specifics.
So, we don't need to get into, obviously. But, I think that, that was part of the reason why Kraft pulled the plug when he did as well.
Yeah. Just crazy to think about how quickly things have fallen apart. But getting back into the game, because we got off topic, and we don't want this one to go super long. It's going to come down to the trenches. You look at this Iowa team, like you said, dink and dunk passing wise. Their defense, I will say, is a little bit susceptible. They did give up 330 yards to Rutgers, albeit on 40 attempts. And they did give up over 200 yards to Indiana as well. So there is the opportunity to throw the ball a bit through the air. But, there's not very many plays that are tougher to make your first career start than at night in Kinnick Stadium. Which to me is just, I think Ethan Grunkemeyer may be a good quarterback, but asking a red shirt freshman to go into this game with all of this distractions going on, I just don't know if he can play well enough for Penn State to win this game. I think if they're going to win this game, the defense is going to have to put together their best performance of the season.
I agree. I think Ethan Grunkemeier's got a lot of good football ahead of him this year, even. Yep. And if this game was at Beaver Stadium, I think it's a lot differently too. But like you said, Kinnick at night is a different animal, man. It's a tough atmosphere. It's one of those stadiums where the fans are right on top of you on that side.
Literally right on top.
Literally right on top of you. So I'm with you. I think if Penn State's going to win, the defense has to carry them. I think Nick Singleton – I'm not going to say Katron Allen has to have his best game of the year because Katron Allen just needs to keep doing what he's done, just get more touches, which they did do against Northwestern. I think this is the game Nick Singleton needs to do something. Play. Even if you give me 1 40, 50-yard explosive out of Nick Singleton, that can go a long way because, we mentioned the trenches. In recent years, this has been a trend, and it's continued this year. Iowa's not as strong in the trenches as an Iowa team typically is. Yep. You mentioned the secondary. They don't have a Riley Moss. They don't have a Cooper DeJean. They don't have – I'm blanking on the name – the safety from Newcastle that's playing in the NFL now. Geno Stone.
Yeah.
They, every year for the longest time, you knew Iowa was going to be great in the trenches. They were going to have a stud in the secondary, and they're going to have their stud middle linebacker. They still have studs at linebacker. It's Iowa. But the secondary and the trench play is not what it's been in the past.
They built them in the lab.
Advantage of that. And I get the situation at quarterback. One thing I do want to see Andy Kotelnicki do, and this is something Mike Yursich, if you remember, tried to do when Taquan Roberson first came in. He still tried to be aggressive and push the ball down the field. He just very quickly realized that wasn't going to work, and they went away from it. If I remember correctly, Roberson's either first or second pass was a deep ball to Jahan Dotson. Like they still tried. So I want to see Kotelnicki be aggressive, take some shots down the field with Devontae Ross, with Kyron Hudson. See if you can get a good matchup with Luke Reynolds down the seam for a deep ball. If nothing else, to build some confidence in Ethan Grunkemeyer, loosen this offense up a little bit. They've been so tight all year, it seemed. So that's what I want to see from the offense on Saturday as well. In addition to coming out and having improved offensive line play, I want to see them be aggressive with the passing game. Yeah, it's first career start. Yeah, it's redshirt freshman. Yeah, it's Kinnick at night. Take the training wheels off and go, man, especially because you've got nothing to lose, right? That 2021 game, as I said early on, they tried to take some shots with Taquan Roberson still. And once they realized it wasn't going to work, they went into a shell, but that was different because you went to the shell and started playing not to lose instead of playing to win because you still had a lot on the table. You were 5-0, ranked like third in the country going into that game, right? And you were trying to cling to that 2-score lead. You have nothing to lose on Saturday. So come out and play like it. Maybe being able to play like that will do them a lot of good. The last time this offense really kind of looked like they were just playing free and loose and chucking it around was in 2022 after they suffered their second loss to Ohio State and they knew they weren't going to go to the playoff. Those last 3 or 4 games into the Rose Bowl, this offense was explosive. They were throwing the ball around. They looked free and easy. Maybe that's what they need. Maybe this will take some of the pressure off, loosen them up a little bit, and maybe this will prove to be beneficial for the offense to get them going. If you're Andy Kotelnicki, man, you're not going to be at Penn State next year. I can promise you that. No matter who the head coach is, you're not going to be retained because
I'm just curious to see what the offense
your future to an extent right now.
I'm just curious to see what the offense looks like this week. Like, does it look like more like an Andy Kotelnicki offense?
I am as well.
Or because if that happens, it confirms that James Franklin had his hand in the cookie jar.
Yep.
And was meddling with the offense.
I will also say, with looking more like Andy Kotelnicki offense, not that Ethan Grunkemeyer is a true dual threat by any means, but I was on with Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, on Monday talking about this, or Tuesday, whatever day, earlier this week. And I did say to him, Grunkemeyer is definitely a better athlete and more of a runner than Drew. He's not a perfect fit for the Kotelnicki offense by any means, but he definitely fits it better than Drew does, in my opinion. So I'll be curious to see how that impacts the offense as well.
I agree with that. I was coming up with this while you were talking. And again, it's hard to say because chances are Grunkemeyer is not the quarterback in 2026. I think it just chances are he's
a coaching change.
I just think it's chance. But if he is, perhaps he's now just 0-4 Michael Robinson. And I mean, that's kind of the goal at this point, right?
Yeah,
Penn State lost.
We said earlier, it's so much different now because it's not even if you would have fired. It would say 2004 to prove to be Joe Paterno's last year or something. That roster was still coming back. It was
pre-transfer
portal.
Well,
so,
but at the same time,
game.
I agree. But at the same time, we can only, assuming that maybe Grunkemeyer sticks around. The goal for Terry Smith at this point should just be building Grunkemeyer's confidence for next season. Because guess what? If he goes out and lights it up over the next 6 weeks and everybody's like, holy crap, Penn State has a quarterback, the next coach is going to be very much more likely to keep him. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's, Eli Drinkowitz who's making the jump to Penn State, I guess we're seeing Bo Beulah come back.
Penn State finally gets Matt Zollers.
Yeah, and if it ends up being Matt Rule, does that mean Dylan Raiola comes to Penn State? Now, if you want to talk about Penn State, I know you don't like the Matt Rule potential, but if Matt Rule comes to Penn State and it brings Dylan Raiola, that idea of 2025, I mean, you'll find out if Matt Rule is the real deal right away because Penn State's best chance with Matt Rule might be
2026.
Yeah. Maybe 26 if it happens.
Especially if Raiola does time. I mean, you know me, I'm under the impression that if Matt Rule comes, I don't think Dylan Raiola is coming with him.
Probably not, but
I don't think he's at Nebraska because of Matt Rule. But if he brings if it's Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola, 2026 may be your best shot. But with Grunkemeyer too, real quick, I'm just gonna say, even Penn State aside, if you come out and you ball out for 6-7 games, you're making yourself some money in the portal somewhere. Even if you're not making Penn State next year, a team that needs a quarterback will gladly come and snatch you up.
Contract year. Yeah, but going back to John Point, I think Grunkemeyer right now is not worried about what his future holds after the offseason. He's just focused on the next 6 games here. But on the off chance he does stay at Penn State, at the end of that, during that 2004 season, Michael Robinson did play 19 games, and it helped, even though he had a bad year, it helped set him up for a 2005 season in which he finished 5th at Heisman voting. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of just, if you're a Penn State fan, I wouldn't necessarily say go into the next 6 weeks expecting Grunkemeyer not to be here. Maybe don't expect him to be either. But what I'm saying, it's okay if it's okay to get excited about him if he plays well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you need something to look forward to.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. This has been one in terms of on field. This has been maybe the most just disappointing season. I don't even know how long. Maybe program history is what the expectations were, and the fact it fell apart so quickly. You deserve to look ahead to something. You deserve to root for something. You deserve to enjoy something. And we still got 2 months to go in this thing. We're not close to being done with this season too, which I think is part of it as well. Because a lot of times when you see these firings happen and things get uprooted, it's late in the year. It's like, hey, let's just truck through 2-3 weeks, get this the hell over with, and move on. We got a lot of way to go. There's a lot of football left to be played.
Also, if Matt Rule ever does happen, Dylan Raiola is probably going to be reliant on what Dylan Raiola will probably be relying on where Donovan Raiola.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola was at Nebraska because of his family ties and the NIL deal he got from Nebraska. I could have been the head coach of Nebraska when Dylan Raiola was a senior in high school and he was still going to Nebraska.
That being said, what did Pat Kraft specifically say? The next head coach is to be aggressive with Penn State, NIL, and the transfer portal. So
I agree, but I'm with you. I think he goes where Donovan Raiola goes, and if Donovan Raiola is the offensive line coach at Penn State in 2026, I'm going to want to pull my hair out because Nebraska's offensive line is hot garbage.
Yeah, well, that is potentially a thing we have to discuss 10 weeks from now.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But yeah, I think last just thoughts on the. Let's go back to the game, and I'll give my last thoughts on just
wrap it up here, give our predictions, and be on our merry way.
Because it's gone way longer than we thought. But yeah, I mean, this game, I'm going in with no expectations.
Yep.
I want to see younger guys play, or not younger guys. I want to see guys who haven't seen the field a ton play.
I want to see different guys play. I don't care. Younger,
especially a wide receiver.
Yes, I want to see Tyser Denmark. Kobe Howard. Maybe get Matt out involved in some fashion.
Yep.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I think same thing at linebacker a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you trust them or not anymore.
It seemed like it seemed like last week they were doing that because, it did seem like Keon Wiley and Anthony Speckle were out there a lot more than they were against UCLA. So hopefully that trend continues. I'm with you. That's what I want to see Saturday, see different guys. You still want to go into this with the theory you're playing for your future, you're playing for next year if you're this coaching staff. That's all you can do right now. As a team, that's all you can do right now. Whether you're 2026 at Penn State or elsewhere, you need to put your best film out there that you can. You need to develop and prepare yourself as best you can for 2026.
You know what I think is they also need to do, and I think it'll help. It's going to sound cheesy, but just go out there and have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like we said a hard times.
Fun this year. Even the wins weren't fun.
Right.
Fun.
And I do wonder if the pressure got to them.
Yeah.
Like if they just played too tight all year.
It seemed like this was the first time being the hunted instead of the hunter, and they didn't respond well to it. And that's just how sometimes you have to have this happen and learn how to be the hunted before you're ready for it.
That being said, historically through the James Franklin era, anytime they ever got into this stratosphere of the rankings, it always seemed to result in losses pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it always did. But
yeah, I think they should just go out there, play loose, have fun, and
absolutely.
I think that would lead to quite a bit of success because, yeah, your season, what you wanted to accomplish is out the window. But I mean, at the same time, we talk about we don't know what the future holds for any of these players, and that's like, I think, the biggest reason just to go out there and have fun. This is probably the last 9 games you're going to play as this, especially as this group.
Yes.
Most of this team is not going to be here next year. It's modern college football. Most of this team is going to be gone. It's going to be an insane transfer portal window. I think there will be guys who stay, but there's going to be a lot of guys who leave, and there was already going to be a lot of guys who were going to leave because of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is their last 9, maybe 10 games. They get a bowl game to go out and play as a team and enjoy these last 9 weeks and play for each other. But yeah, that I just want to see them play loose and play different guys this week. Let's see what these younger guys have, and I think they're going to do that the rest of the year because they have They don't really have anything to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Terry Smith is truly expecting to get this job.
No, they can win out, and Terry Smith's not going to be. You don't pay $50 million to fire your coach to promote your cornerbacks coach. That just doesn't happen.
Right. So, I think that's all I'm going to say. That being said, I don't see them winning this weekend. Just too many variables.
Yeah, I do. I will say, to build off that real quick, and we'll wrap it up here. The seniors on this team, so everyone below them as well. You came into this year on the Hills, one of the best 3-year runs in program history. 11-2, win the Rose Bowl. 10-3, go to the Peach Bowl. What they finished last year? 13-3, 14-3, whatever it was.
Yep.
One play away from the national championship.
Yep.
You were on pace to go down as one of the best senior classes in the history of Penn State football. Play like that. Don't let this be your lasting legacy at Penn State. Let your lasting legacy be that we rallied, we came together, we put together 6 good weeks of football, and we finished this strong. I'm with you. I don't think they're going to win. Now, I will say I think this goes one of two ways. I think either Iowa wins a typical Penn State-Iowa game, or if Penn State wins, as crazy as it sounds, Penn State wins, I think they come out and they kick Iowa's teeth in because I think they're going to come out angry and be the team we haven't seen yet this year.
I would not be surprised if this is like a UCLA type situation.
I won't either. And I will say one last thing here before we get ready to wrap it up. We both think they're going to lose, but I will say, though, what I think we're going to see is I think we're going to see some of these senior leaders come out and play with their hair on fire. I think Dom DeLuca is going to come out and have a game, especially because he matched up well against Iowa. I think you see that from Denai Dennis Sutton. I think you see a good game out of Katron Allen. Again, we both think they're going to lose, but it's not going to stun me. If you look up and it's the early third quarter, and it's like, oh, hell, Penn State's up 21-3. Where did this come from?
We see it. I'd be curious to know. We should have asked Greg. Maybe he could have found this. I would have been curious because we know in the NFL, whenever a coach gets fired, teams usually come out the next week and win the game. It's just what happens. I wonder what that is like in college football statistically.
I would be as well.
But I think I wouldn't not be surprised if that happens. Like we said, both picking them to lose, but
yep.
It's definitely in the realm of possibility. And like we said, if they win this game, probably not winning out. It would be very funny if this was the year they beat Ohio State.
Oh, that would be – you want to talk about a wouldn't it be hilarious moment. This is the year they finally beat the Buckeyes. But, I'm with you. I think they're going to lose as well. Whatever happens – no, go ahead.
Just if they get one win, that may be all it takes to get the confidence back.
Yeah. Sometimes
this is a team that has zero confidence the last 3 weeks.
Sometimes you just need that win to have that deep breath, be loose again, be confident again. And maybe that's what happens Saturday night. We'll find out. But whatever happens Saturday, when it goes final, 7:00 on Peacock, so it'll be a late one. We'll be here with you to recap it here at the Whiteout Report. We'll have our post-game show Saturday here with our friends at Proline TV. Make sure you come and check us out. Whatever happens, we'll have you covered. We'll have you covered the rest of the way.
What's your score prediction?
Oh, boy. I'm going to say Iowa wins it some sort of ugly slog, like 19-14.
I was going to say 19-14.
19-20. There's going to be safeties. There's going to be field goals.
I was honestly going to go with 12-7.
There might be a defensive score. There might not be a single offensive touchdown in this game. That wouldn't surprise me. It's Penn State and Iowa, and both the offenses stink. I'll stay with 19-14.
I think Penn State's going to score more than 7 points. But just to be a smart, I was going to say 12-7 Iowa with 4 field goals.
That's not impossible.
That would be such an Iowa Penn State game.
All that would be missing is the safety. Especially if Penn State's touchdown was defensive. But,
it's going to be a weird score. I think it's going to be like, I don't know.
I'd hammer the under. I can tell you that.
Yeah, give me the Iowa to win 18. I don't know how they get 18, but give me Iowa 18-13.
All right, there it is. I've got 19-14 Iowa. Dylan's got 18-13 Iowa. Hopefully Saturday night we'll be here. We'll both be wrong. We'll be recapping a surprise Penn State victory. It'd be one of the more feel-good wins they've had in quite a while after everything that's transpired, not just this season, but especially since Saturday night and into Sunday morning. But, that'll do it for tonight. We will be back Saturday night to recap it. For Dylan, I'm Marty. As always, we'll have you covered here at the Whiteout Report podcast here at Proline TV. make sure to come and check us out Saturday night, and we'll recap whatever kind of fun excitement this one's got in store for us this week.
That one.